welcome to How I Conquered Calradia as the Order of Assassins in 1200 days, a challenge where we can only use daggers for both heroes and troops. That means our army is inferior in open battles, so we will have to rely on non-combat strategies and work from the shadows to weaken and destroy our enemies, from fake marriages to broken oaths, civil wars to straight up murdering our friends. We are holding nothing back. We will be using 4 main modes. Number 1, my Little Warband. This mod lets us create 3 custom branches that only uses daggers. For tier 1, we've got Shadow Recruits, wannabe assassin peasants. They promote into 2 different branches. First is the Daggerlings, lightly armored troops that only use throwing daggers. Then there are the Shadowlings, a bit tougher, equipped with medium shields, melee knives and decent armor adorned with lion skins and heads. And finally the Elite branch, the Assassins, a mounted unit with throwing daggers, a light shield and strong armor decorated with zebra skins. All of them will look much better with our dark banner. Number 2, Fourberie. This adds schemes like scandals, blackmail, sabotage and assassinations. It also lets us build a criminal network inside towns, increasing our profits through smuggling and other less than moral activities, while unlocking game-changing possibilities that perfectly suit an assassin playthrough. Number 3, Diplomacy, to add more dynamic diplomatic events like civil wars, alliances and the possibility of new AI kingdoms. And number 4, Throwing weapons, actually balanced. This mod buffs throwing daggers and axes, so they are not completely useless compared to javelins. Our daggers will be stronger, but trust me, they are still the worst weapons when it comes to rough damage. Meet Hassan, a 40-year-old man gifted in both social and intelligence skills. Alongside him are his companions, Altair, a man known for his unmatched endurance and talent in smithing, and Rashid, a skinny but cunning scout, infamous for his dishonorable tactics. They were members of a once mighty religious cult called the Nizarim, but years of oppression by the SRI rulers, who follow a different sect of the faith, forced them into hiding. Their people were hunted like rabbits. Hassan swore vengeance, and his companions would follow him to the grave. He was determined to restore the cult's former glory and make the oppressed people of the desert remember the old ways. First, he needed to grow his network. He started working for the gang leader in Kuyas, who tasked him with pickpocketing citizens, a humiliating job for a man like Hassan. But he was rusty. He couldn't even steal a few coins without drawing attention. He had to improve. All of his ideas would mean nothing if he got caught by the guards on day 1. Eventually, he managed to pickpocket the required amount. With the money earned, he gambled in the tavern, taking advantage of players foolish enough to think they stood a chance against his superior intellect. After that, he traveled from village to village, recruiting people for his cause. His deep religious knowledge was enough to brainwash them in seconds. Then he visited the richest town in all of Calradia, Just like in Kuyas, he pickpocketed many unsuspecting citizens. He still wasn't great at it, but at least not bad enough to get thrown in prison. And of course, he gambled with that money too. He was especially good at a board game called Tablut. Luckily, we are using a mode called Board Games Changed, which makes every culture's default game the same. After a while, he had enough recruits to challenge the looters haunting his homeland. 11 shadow recruits and 7 mounted assassins were now under his command, while Hassan drew their attention. His assassins rained daggers down on the looters. All were dead, without a single casualty on our side. 6 recruits were ready for promotion. Hassan made this a routine. His silk clothes couldn't protect him. He gained plenty of wounds and bruises. Thankfully, his soldiers didn't need him to win. After returning to Kuyas to sell the loot, he bought a round shield for himself. At least now, he might survive until the end of a battle. Then he paid a scholar to teach Rashid the art of battle tactics, thanks to the Xorberax Legacy mod. What's a scout like Rashid gonna do with tactics skill, you ask? Well, you will see soon enough. Next on the list, Desert Bandits. These guys had a lot of cavalry armed with long lances. The Daggerlings and the Shadowlings held the front line, while the mounted assassins stayed behind, using their elevated height to rain daggers from above. But it didn't take long before everything turned into chaos. The formation scattered, and after a bit of chasing, the battle was over. 4 of our would-be assassins were dead. Afterward, Hassan spoke with the villagers. He offered to hunt down bandits in the area, earning some extra dinars and building building relationships in return, basically getting paid and praised for something he was already planning to do. The desert soon became a graveyard of bandit corpses and shiny daggers. With each defeated party, Hassan's troops grew stronger, which also meant higher daily wages and upgrade costs. But the loot and village rewards were enough to keep things going for now. Bandits were always around, thanks to the adjustable bandit parties mode, which made them more frequent and formed into larger groups, perfect for farming experience and loot. During their travels, Altair constantly pestered Hassan with philosophical debates. Courtesy of the Dramalord mode, Hassan replied with just the right answers, the kind he knew Altair wanted to hear, earning his unwavering loyalty. Back in Kuyas, instead of selling all the looted weapons, Hassan had Altair smelt them down, preparing to forge better daggers in the future. When Altair got too exhausted from all the smithing, they stayed in the town for a while and kept talking philosophy. Day by day, Altair improved. Eventually, he started completing smithing orders to earn money for the clan, but before long, they ran out of materials, so it was time to head back into the desert and hunt more bandits. More recruits joined. Bandits couldn't break through our three lines, daggers flew, and corpses littered the land. More villagers pleaded for help, and Hassan answered. 3 bandit parties ganged up on us, 56 haramis against our 28 assassins. We positioned our fedais on the edge of a hill and let the daggers fly. Once they closed into 80 meters, the slope behind us made their cavalry easy targets. Then their infantry clashed with ours. Outnumbered, our front line got swarmed and wiped out, but the mounted assassins finished off the remnants. 15 were wounded, but not a single assassin died, 12 of them ready for upgrade. All in all, a brutal but totally worth it battle. More villagers pleaded, more bandit parties fell, and more loot got sold. After a few more rounds of this routine, Hassan finally reached Clan Tier 1. With the increased party size limit, he recruited even more assassins to his cause. Thanks to the endless supply of haramis, they were all quickly promoted. Meanwhile, Hassan's skills in leadership, stewardship, and medicine steadily improved, training him into the legendary leader he was destined to become. As the bandit hunt went on, Altair kept pestering Hassan for more philosophical talk. Eventually, Hassan had enough and broke his heart, telling him to stop bothering him. Altair was devastated. Afterward, Hassan turned his attention to bandit hideouts, finally putting an end to the constant waves of ambushers. These hideouts were a perfect opportunity to train Hassan's throwing and athletics skill, preparing him for the gang fights ahead. Hassan couldn't risk a fair duel. He knew he'd get wrecked, so he let his men handle the boss battles. There were so many of these hideouts. The Order visited all of them. Unfortunately, there wasn't much variety in their design. Honestly, this desert bandits seriously lack creativity. With each hideout cleared, the Nizirim treasury grew richer. Villagers held endless gratitude for Hassan. He began helping townsfolk too, persuading poachers with his slick tongue. More hideouts fell. Captured bandits were sold to villagers as slaves. The people of the desert will remember who came to their rescue, while their SRI masters turned a blind eye to their pleas. The Nizirim became one with the sandstorm. The kings of the continent began sending contracts to Hassan, desperately trying to bring him to their side. But it was too early. Hassan wouldn't settle for being a mere mercenary. He continued aiding the desert people and started using his dagger in melee to train his one-handed skill. Surprisingly, those thrust attacks still packed a decent punch. After a struggle that lasted several seasons, Hassan was finally skilled enough to work with city gangs. He traveled to Rezi and struck up a friendship with Kilam the Mole. Gathering all his companions in the town, he launched an assault on Kilam's rival gang's turf. The thugs stood no chance. Impressed, Kilam offered Hassan a quest, assist in all-out gang fight. The assassins filled the streets with thug corpses. With this earned trust, Hassan began collecting tributes in Kilam's name, personally killing the mercenaries sent by merchants, sending a clear message. Next, Kilam tasked him with collecting debts from villagers. Hassan hesitated. He didn't want to ruin his relations with them, but the criminal network came before a few innocent lives. He accepted. Then came the insurance scam. Hassan was to lead a caravan straight into a bandit ambush, watching coldly as the traders were slaughtered. But once the trap was sprung, Hassan turned on the bandits too. No witnesses. The ambushers were mounted, many of them horse archers. Their cavalry charged blindly into Hassan's three-line formation and were wiped out with ease. The horse archers tried to retreat after taking losses, but not before a few of them were brought shut down. Victory was ours, flawless, with 0 casualties. Back in Razi, Kilam offered one last job, the grand heist, the payout, 15k dinars. But the target was guarded by elite troops. Hasan flanked them, throwing daggers into their backs while they were distracted by his soldiers. Both sides took heavy losses, but in the end, the assassins prevailed. For now, Kilam had no more jobs to offer, so Hasan turned his eyes toward Husum Fulk, clearing countless bandit parties along the way. Just like in Razi, he headed straight for the rival gang streets, but this time things went south fast. He was surrounded before he could even throw his daggers. Knocked out and barely alive, he was dragged to safety by his companions. He paid a healer 1000 dinars just to get back on his feet. While recovering from his wounds, he ordered his soldiers to keep the desert clean, hunting down bandits and helping citizens with poacher problems. Once he was fully healed, he returned to the streets again. This time, his daggers found their mark, sinking into thug organs while his companions kept them distracted. But Sabila the Widow still didn't trust him enough to start handing out quests, so he cleared another rival street. That finally earned him the widow's trust. After dealing with some mercenaries and collecting payments, she sent Hasan to Hubyar for a robbery mission. Job done. From there, he began working for Baidal the Spider, Hubyar's gang leader. A few quests later, Vidal sent him to Iakis. Same story. After building trust there, the Iakis gang leader sent him back to Hubyar. During another robbery, a palace guard caught Hasan in the act. He parried blow after blow, smashing the guard repeatedly with his tiny hammer until he dropped. The money was ours. Hasan knew the time had come to expand. He needed more companions to guarantee success in tougher missions. He found a massive looter party wandering the endless desert and sent in his mounted assassins alone, testing which of them was worthy to rise. One emerged a legend, racking up 4 kills. He showed talent in tactics, stewardship, and medicine. A future party leader. His name, Asait, a young, athletic assassin with a sharp mind and deadlier aim. He will be vital in upcoming gang wars. The following days were spent training Altair in the arts of smithing. Since Altair was now too scared to bother Hasan with philosophical rambling, Rashid took over the role of the resident annoyance. Regardless, after many hours of smelting and forging, Altair finally succeeded. He crafted the best throwing daggers in all of Calradia. He named them Hashash, after his favorite snack. The Hashash were a massive upgrade for Clan Nizarim. Soon after, the mounted assassins struck again, this time on a looter party perched atop a mountain. Another soldier rose to the rank of companion. Like Hasid, he was trained in tactics, stewardship, and medicine. His name was Said. Hasan returned to Razi for another insurance scam. Another caravan destroyed. Another mounted bandit party faced the wrath of the assassins. Another soldier rose through the ranks. His name was Kilam. With that, the clan was truly ready for anything a town could throw at them. They joined another grand heist in Razi. The companions carried the fight with ease, while Hasan stayed at a safe distance, hurling his daggers into enemy backs. Next, Kilam the Mul offered a gang trial to test Hasan's worth. The two faced off under the moonlight, daggers in hand, parry after parry, slash after slash. The duel was long, brutal, and intense, but Hasan landed the decisive blow with a slash to the gut. Kilam the Mul was defeated, but spared. Instead of taking the streets for himself, Hasan chose partnership. At this stage of the campaign, relationships were more valuable than territory. Afterward, they spoke of expanding their network, and the clan traveled to Hubyar for another grand heist, another street, another pile of corpses, but this time it came at a cost. Said, one of our trusted companions, was killed during the fight. His death would not be in vain. A few missions later, Vidal the Spider, Hubyar's gang leader, was ready for a trial. Another duel, another victory, another partnership forged. Next on the list, Yakis. Hasan spoke with its gang leader, Arva the Scorpion, about the clan's growing network, boosting their relationship. After a grand heist, a forced tribute, and a notable extortion, she too offered a trial. One more gang leader tested the edge of Hasan's dagger. One more daily tribute flowed into Nezarim's coffers, and it was off to Kasira to do the exact same thing. Mission after mission, Nezarim's renowned sword, and so did Hasan's charm. Eventually, he claimed Kasira's alliance as well. Then Askar became the next target. Another town's streets ran red as corpses piled high. The gang leader there offered Hassan a sneered wealthy job. To pull it off, Hassan had to gain the trust of a town merchant and become his hired escort for a caravan. Once the trust was secured, Hassan betrayed it, working with the gang leader's harami friends to rob the very caravan he was sworn to protect. Helping the gangs was one thing, helping common bandits was a new law for Hassan. He felt dirty. His soldiers were ordered to hold their ground, while the bandits charged the unexpected caravaneers. Out of muscle memory, Hassan accidentally hurled his daggers at the bandits instead of the guards. Oops. Once all the bandits were wiped out, the assassins turned and finished off the remaining caravaneers. No witnesses. After a few more missions, Askar's gang leader was finally ready for a trial. Another duel, another victory, another partnership. Then we traveled to Sanala. More rival streets were cleared, more caravans deceived, more robberies executed, more grand heists pulled off, and after another trial, nearly every Aserai gang had became partners with Nizarim. Only Kuyaz and Husunfulk remained. Our clan tier increased. First Lukon came begging, hoping we'd become his vassal. Then Onkit, our nemesis, was foolish enough to ask the same. We ignored them both and pressed on with our criminal empire, eventually adding Kuyas to our growing network of gang partnerships. After that, Hassan entrusted 65 of his elite assassins to Kilam's command, taking full advantage of the increased party limit granted by Clan Tier 2. Then he restocked his own forces by traveling from village to village, preparing for Nizarim's desert conquest. Hassan traveled to Husunfulk to work under its gang leader, while Kilam and his party roamed the land. After yet another trial, a quick thrust to the face ended the duel before it had really begun. This time, Hassan didn't settle for a partnership. He claimed the streets for himself. Altair was appointed as the paymaster, overseeing the smuggling operations within the town. However, the constant bribes needed to lower our criminal rating were draining all potential profit. We needed someone to officially take over as the gang leader of Husunfulk in our name. To make this happen, we targeted a large party of 134 step bandits. We held a solid line atop a hill. Their cavalry became stuck and was mercilessly slaughtered. The horse archers proved more difficult. They managed to take Hassan down, but Hasid took command and finished the fight with ruthless precision. Goal was achieved. A legendary assassin had earned his promotion, a master of all cunning skills. His name was Jaim. He was appointed as our gang leader in Husunfulk. With that, we began investing heavily in our underground operations, smuggling businesses, gambling dens, and party houses. Rashid was named our enforcer. His roguery and tactics paired with his dishonorable personality made him perfect for the role. His presence gave us a massive success bonus for our future operations. Still, profits were hard to come by. The bribery costs were suffocating us. We pushed more money into upgrading our criminal base. For days, 1,000 dinars disappeared daily to fuel the expansion of our enterprise. Bandit hunting continued in the meantime. All upgrade points were funneled into the smuggling business. After many more improvements, we finally began to see results. A steady daily profit of 500 dinars after halting further upgrades and dialing the bribery down to moderate levels. With funds trickled in, we began recruiting more soldiers to train as agents. Low tier troops became saboteurs. Mid tier ones were trained as spies, and only the highest tier warriors earned the title of true assassin. The following days were spent on further recruitment and relentless bandit hunting. The growing number of gang partnerships and friendly notables across SRI lands earned us a solid network bonus. With Rashid's skills and ruthless personality, we had a massive advantage against the Sultanate. We launched scandal operations targeting SRI lords, aiming to lower their town's loyalty and steer the seeds of rebellion. Next, we began seeking assassination contracts to further enrich ourselves, but only kingdoms where we had already established networks could hear of our services, so we set out to expand our influence. First on the list was the Southern Empire. Hassan had already become a master of these missions. Nothing in civilian gear could stand against his daggers. While we were waiting in town for more jobs, a messenger brought surprising news. The Northern Empire had been destroyed on the 11th day of summer 1086. Its lands were devoured by the Southern Empire and Battania, an unexpected feat from both kingdoms. We returned to our work, chasing the dumbest tags, completing missions. Eventually, we became partners with the gang leader of Danistica. Then we traveled east to Kuzeit lands to repeat the process. The streets of the steppe ran red with blood, and after yet another duel, we secured a network inside the Kuzeit Khanate as well. We returned to Asrai lands to train our soldiers. On the way, a messenger from the Asrai arrived with a dirty offer. destabilize a Western Empire clan named Modlist. Scandal, blackmail, rebellion, it didn't matter how, as long as they were hurt. Reward, 30k dinars. We accepted without hesitation. The problem, we didn't have a network inside the Western Empire yet, so we traveled to Zeonica and began our usual routine, killing mercenaries, bullying villagers, robbing palaces, scamming caravans, joining grand heists, and clearing rival streets. After one module, we added another kingdom to our growing network. With that done, we launched the operation against the Manolus clan, a scandal, 60% chance of success. Not ideal, but good enough. While waiting for the operation to conclude, we continued hunting bandits. During this time, Hasan met a beautiful 22-year-old imperial woman named Dibana, almost half his age. Day after day, Hasan tried to reach her, and eventually, he managed to trick the poor girl into agreeing to marry him, but her clan leader's blessing was still required. While waiting on the messenger, the operation against the Manolus clan succeeded. We paid our clan leader 5k dinars, and she was ours. May she not regret her decision. A few days later, a messenger from the Western Empire arrived with another request. This time, destabilize an Aserai clan. We accepted. Thanks to our massive network across Aserai lands, we had a 90% success chance. The contract was completed successfully. Then another messenger came from the west. This time, it was more serious. Bring death to the Aserai clan Banu Atish. The reward was 70k dinars. We targeted their clan leader for assassination. Success chance 80%. We proceeded. After more bandit hunting, another companion named Stein joined our ranks, a skilled party leader. We gave him his own troops to command, and now Clan Nizarim had 3 separate parties working simultaneously to increase our might. Hasan quickly restocked his depleted forces and trained them with more bandit blood. Meanwhile, our assassination attempt was successfully completed. We immediately launched another operation, this time targeting a different Aserai clan leader, even without a contract, just to further weaken the Sultanate. Not long after, yet another messenger from the Western Empire arrived. Clearly, they were fond of our services. This time, they wanted us to destabilize a Khuzait clan. As always, we accepted. After more bandit hunting, the operation against the Khuzaites failed. We tried again. 4 days later, the assassination attempt on the Aserai also failed. That too, we repeated, but these operations drained our treasury. We needed to be more cautious with our spending. While Hasan flirted with Monchuk's daughter in Chaikand, the Khuzait operation failed once again. This time we were caught. The Khuzaites declared war on us. Hasan needed to escape the steppes, and fast. Fortunately, no one could catch him. Then Hasan sent a messenger to Monchuk. The messengers had to bribe the guards with 7k dinars just to reach him. Even after offering our entire treasury and equipment, Monchuk's demands for peace were far too high. So be it, said Hasan. He began recruiting every able fighter he could find and trained them quickly against desert bandits. With 2 of his clan parties behind him, over 300 men strong, he was ready for war. Oh, and by the way, the assassination operation against the Aserai clan was eventually completed successfully. The Nizarim army then marched into Khuzait territory to make the most of the war. First, we raided Erzenur village. Khuzait lords watched helplessly as their lands burned. Then one foolish lord cornered himself on a cliff. Hasan closed the distance, leaving him no room to escape. Hasan first offered peace. The arrogant fool demanded everything Hasan owned. Enraged, Hasan attacked. The result? An effortless victory for Nizarim. The lord was taken prisoner. We raided more villages. Then Altair and an Aserai lady named Asina asked for Hasan's blessings to marry. He gave it without hesitation. Soon after, another messenger was sent to Monchuk, but the horse diddler still demanded everything Hasan had. Hasan had enough of their horse shit. He returned to Aserai lands to continue destroying town loyalty and hunting bandits. That's when he stumbled upon an enormous bandit party, 140 assassins versus 400 looters. We positioned our 3 troop types back to back, as always. The Shadowlings held the front line with their oval shields. The Daggerlings rained death from behind. Mounted assassins flanked the looters from the rear. The battle was chaos. Daggers, corpses, and blood scattered across the desert. Many assassins fell, but in the end, we emerged victorious. A legendary assassin had racked up 14 kills. Thanks to the distinguished service mode, his skills improved based on kills earned before promotion. This one, Jasid al-Janubi, was a monster. With 300 medicine, 150 steward, and 150 tactics, he was incredibly powerful. Sadly, our party limit was full. so he'd have to wait before leading his own force. We hunted more bandits, raising our renown and upgrading our troops. On the 17th day of autumn, 1087, Altair and Azina finally married. Another lady joining our clan, ready to serve for free. Both Dibana and Azina would make excellent governors in the future. A few days later, Altair got Azina pregnant. Meanwhile, Dibana still hadn't given Hasan a child, despite all the nights they spent together. The Nizarim clan continued spending its days hunting down bandits. Hasan checked town after town for signs of rebellion, but Esrai loyalty remained high. No one raided their villages or besieged their fiefs, except for one town. Kasira, for some reason, had dropped to just 29 loyalty, a perfect candidate to become our first town. Hasan paid 40k dinars to incite a rebellion inside Kasira. Then he joined the citizens in slaughtering the town guards. It wasn't much of a challenge. The riot was successful. Kasira's loyalty dropped to 0. Rebellion could erupt at any moment. We camped outside the town for days, hunting bandits and doing the usual routine. Then it happened. Kasira was no longer under Aserai control. Hasan wasted no time. He hunted down the rebellion leaders he had helped just days ago and declared war. The poor peasants didn't stand a chance. He sent his saboteurs inside Kasira to destroy the food stockpile. Success. Then another team to sap the walls. Another success. It was time to besiege. With one wall already broken, we skipped the siege engines and launched the assault immediately. Two formations were established. The first, shielded infantry, composed of shadowlings and assassins. The second, ranged specialists, mostly daggerlings with some assassins mixed in. The daggerlings cleared the walls with a storm of blades, while the shadowlings charged through the breach. Hasan, as always, slipped behind the chaos, stabbing enemies in the back. Massive damage, no risk of a fair fight, but eventually he was cornered near the trees and knocked out. Yassid al-Janabi took command. With his elite skills, he cleared the left side of the town in no time. Corpses and blood lined the streets. Before he could even reach the other side, it had already been cleared. Kasira was ours, and now it bore a new name, Alamut. The garrison was left empty to maximize profits. All projects for fortifications, militia and garrison growth were abandoned and replaced with projects for higher taxes and influence gain. Hasan then filled the reserves with his own money to speed up construction. Next, he hunted down the remaining rebellion leaders. With all of them captured, the Kasira rebels were officially destroyed. Hasan cleared nearby bandit hideouts and roaming parties to boost Alamut's prosperity. Asaid, one of our companions with high engineering skill, was appointed governor of Alamut. The rest of the companions were sent to complete missions for the town's notables, but we were still facing a terrible daily deficit. The treasury was running dry. Hasan chased one mission after another just to scrape together enough coin for the assassins' wages. Eventually, he dismissed the clan's other parties to cut down on expenses. This boosted our profit to a glorious 200 dinars a day. We needed a much more stable income before stepping into the big game. Hasan then placed companions in various towns to increase their charm skills and improve his relationship with the local notables. Once again, he sent a messenger to Monchuk, and once again, the horse diddler demanded everything Hasan had. But this time, Hasan barely had anything left, just 8k dinars and some mediocre loot, so he agreed to the peace treaty. Alamut was safe for now. Shortly after, Dibana gave birth to Hasan's child, Fenoria. Hasan remained in Alamut to oversee these two projects, but despite his efforts, the daily deficit still returned from time to time, likely due to bandits attacking his villagers. There were days he couldn't even afford to pay his troops. The constant bandit hunting was the only thing keeping the money flowing. He considered taking a loan from a local bank, but they demanded repayment within 7 days, an impossible ask for the Nizarim at this stage. Eventually, after scraping together enough dinars, Hasan purchased 2 caravans and sent his companions to run them, hoping to stabilize his income. This raised the daily profits to a respectable 1000 dinars, but the good times didn't last. One caravan was destroyed by sea raiders, cutting income in half, and the other was lost too. Daily profits crashed back to neutral. It was clear the only guaranteed path to profit was through more towns. Hasan looked across the continent. The Southern Empire had swallowed its neighbors and was now pushing into Esrai deserts, their freshly conquered cities, perfect candidates for rebellion. Hasan traveled to Rezi, where loyalty toward its new imperial overlords was at an all-time low. He began doing missions for the town's gang leader, and after clearing out more bandit parties, he finally had enough coin to spark another uprising. Another 4k dinars gone, another batch of guards brutally slaughtered in some shady back alley. After waiting a couple of days, Razi finally rebelled, right as a messenger from Rakea arrived. She offered Hasan a vassalage under her banner, a tempting offer, but we had a rebellion to exploit. We struck fast. The rebel leaders didn't stand a chance. After wiping out their parties, we sent saboteurs to break the wall, just like before, and launched the siege without bothering to build engines or summon any clan support. The Shadowlings climbed through the shattered breach, where a brutal clash of infantry unfolded in a narrow corridor. Hasan supported his troops with his tiny dagger, weaving through the chaos, stabbing from the shadows. Eventually, he slipped out of the crowd and started picking off the enemies chasing him. Though badly wounded, he kept fighting, hurling dagger after dagger, dropping foe after foe. The gate was flooded with corpses, the ground slick with blood. Barely able to stand, Hasan staggered toward the last pocket of resistance on the walls, supporting his man with every last dagger until his band was empty. The remaining militia tried to flee down the stairs, but ran straight into the waiting place below. The town was ours. Hasan got comfy on his new throne, or rather, his new armchair. Then he hunted down the last rebel leader, and with that, the Razi rebels were no more. After calling a few more bandit parties, he traveled to Husunful to stir up yet another rebellion. This time the riot cost only 20k dinars. Hasan joined the citizens and, as always, helped them butcher the guards with ease. Husunful's loyalty was brought to zero. But then, nothing happened. Day after day passed, yet no rebellion came. Turns out a town can't rebel if its garrison outnumbers its militia, and for some reason, the Southern Empire decided to stuff 250 troops into a poor, irrelevant town like Husunful. Brilliant strategy. Unsatisfied and frustrated, Hasan returned to his lands and bought a few workshops to boost his daily income. Then he handed some troops to Jessit, allowing him to lead his own party. At last, he appointed Azina, Altair's wife, as governor of Razi, while Altair continued working as our paymaster in the alleys of Husunful. The two lovebirds were now separated, so they wouldn't keep flooding the clan with more of their underachieving offspring. Hasan then began recruiting every wannabe assassin he could find, training them through relentless battles against desert bandits. As his party reached its limit, he distributed soldiers among his companions so they could lead their own warbands. Week after week, he kept up the grind from east to west. Every recruitable young man wandering the dunes was brought under the black banner of Clan Nizarim. The desert ran red with the blood of bandits. One by one, assassins rose through experience, sharpened by the steel of the slain, and finally, Hasan stood at the edge of an elite army of 600 assassins. To take them to the next level, he paid 30k dinars to rent an arena, giving his killers a final round of training. On the last day of autumn 1090, Hasan was ready to destroy the Aserai. He sought out Regia, the empress of the Southern Empire. She greeted him warmly and immediately offered him vassalage. Hasan accepted and recited their sacred vow as a welcome gift. The Empress handed him a few cataphracts, completely useless in our campaign, but at least the two-handed sword she gave could fetch a decent price. Right afterwards, Hasan started shamelessly flirting with the Empress. Then they did the ceremony of vassalage. Everyone stood in awkward silence as Hasan bent the knee, eyes fixed firmly between Ragia's legs.
Salam alaikum.
Right afterwards, the Southern Empire nobles gifted Hasan an Aserai castle thanks to overwhelming support from Regia herself. She had clearly already fallen for him. Hasan then traveled to Iakis, slipping into the city with the help from his gang leader contact. Disguised in a guard's outfit, he made his way toward the palace. There, he approached an Aserai noblewoman. She eyed him suspiciously and asked what unit he was with. Hasan came prepared. He gave the correct answer without hesitation and got in close. A swift thrust from his dagger ended her life. Chaos erupted. Palace guards were immediately alerted. Hasan hurled a dagger into one of them before leaping down the stairs. He managed to get outside the palace, but the city guards were now on full alert. They nearly surrounded him, but he vaulted down another staircase and slipped through their their clutches. After a tense chase through narrow alleys and crowded streets, Hasan was free. He left Yakis and headed west. Assassinating a single Asrai noblewoman wasn't going to shift the balance of power, but pushing further would only land him in chains. Instead, Hasan sent his assassins after a far more valuable target, an Asrai clan leader named Hashan. On the way, Hasan intercepted an Asrai army of 200. Our soldiers took position atop a hill. Shielded Shadowlings formed the front line in a two-row formation for maximum coverage. Daggerlings stood behind them, and the mounted assassins took the rear, ready to exploit the height advantage of their horses. Unfortunately, we had to march toward the enemy as they couldn't be bothered to come to us. Our mounted assassins reached them first, pelting the enemy cavalry with daggers, but the Asrai horsemen overpowered them with ease, forcing a swift retreat. By then, our infantry had closed the distance as Shadowlings clashed with both enemy cavalry and infantry. Daggerlings and assassins unleashed a storm of daggers from the rear once Hasan gave the charge command. The enemy ranks crumbled and victory was swift. Following the decisive win, Hasan returned to Yakis and sent saboteurs to destroy the food stores and sap the wall. Both operations were successful. Without delay, he launched the assault. The enemy had crammed the large field behind the breach with militia and elite garrison troops. What followed was a brutal, chaotic melee. Hasan carved his way through the enemy with his dagger, striking from behind at every opportunity. As the battle raged, the enemy was completely overwhelmed. Shortly after, the enemy retreated to the keep. The stench of blood and rotting flesh began to blanket the entire city. Hasan and his assassins stormed the keep. Resistance was minimal. Victory was ours. Hasan gave up on his right of first refusal, letting the nobles vote on who should rule the town. He then donated his prisoners to the dungeon, which granted him massive charm experience. Since towns without a decided owner are temporarily considered property of the ruler's clan, the relationship gained with Ragea, ruler of the Southern Empire, yielded absurd amounts of XP. Not long after, Garius, the Emperor of the Western Empire, declared war on us. Meanwhile, the Asrai came pleading for peace. He declined. Hasan pressed deeper into their lands. Then came the vote for Yakis. As expected, Ragea didn't disappoint. She heavily supported Hasan for ownership once again. Another town was added to our banner. Next, we assaulted Medeni Castle. Our assassins surged through the breached gates, and the castle fell with ease. Hasan once again refrained from claiming the fief, and yet again Ragea granted to him. Hasan then returned to Yakis, reclaimed the prisoners he had donated earlier, and transferred them to the dungeon in Hubyar, netting another massive boost in charm XP. This finally unlocked the good-natured perk, a true game changer. Now Hasan could support any proposal in the council as much as he wants, as long as they fail to pass. This means both free relations and free charm experience, and insane amounts in both of them. Meanwhile, three small Asrai armies had gathered to besiege our newly conquered Medeni castle. We marched to intercept them. Hasan sacrificed 70 of his troops to join the defense, bringing our total to 550 defenders against 665 attackers. The wall we had previously destroyed had only been partially repaired, and the enemy launched their assault without constructing any siege engines. Instead of scattering along the walls, we positioned our troops deep inside the castle, right in front of the keep. Daggerlings formed the rear line, backs pressed against the keep and standing atop a slight hill for better range. We split our Shadowlings into three formations, one shield wall at the front of the Daggerlings and two more covering the left and right flanks. This formation gave our Daggerlings full protection while they freely rained death on the invaders. As the enemy began climbing the ladders, they were met with a storm of daggers, each throw finding flesh or clattering against the walls. Then came the second wave, attacking from the right. Hasan hurled his daggers while the right windshield wall held strong until we gave the charge command. The enemy, composed of many high-tier units, proved difficult to push back, but we managed to break their line. Daggerlings moved forward. We forced the enemy toward the stairs, Hasan's precision throws steadily chipping away at their health. After that push, we returned to the keep to eliminate scattered enemies still inside. Another clash soon followed. Hasan darted behind enemy lines, stabbing and slicing with swift thrusts. Assassins and Assassins alike fell in waves. The attackers kept coming. Their elite troops were gone, but even the lower tier units posed a threat to our Dagger army. Still, thanks to our superior positioning, we repelled the wave after wave, eventually launching a counter-charge to push them back toward the stairs. As the ground before the keep filled with corpses, we spotted a group of assassins still engaging enemies atop the wall. We sent additional shadowlings to assist. Then, executing a flanking maneuver, we ordered 100 shadowlings outside the gate to attack the enemy from the left side, while another infantry unit looped behind to form a deadly pincer. When both formations charged, the enemy was trapped. A perfect ambush. Their low-tier troops were crushed beneath our assassins' boots. Another pile of corpses marked the final act. The defense was successful. One Assassinating Lord perished in the siege. The other 7 were taken prisoner. Now it was time to go on the offensive. We sent our saboteurs to destroy the wall of Asgard. Then a voting for an influence policy came to the council. Hassan supported his dear Empress with 150 influence, 27 relations with Empress clans, 8 points in charm, and all the influence spent got returned thanks to our amazing perk. Anyways, the wall operation was successful and we started the assault right after the preparations finished. Hassan and the Shadowlings attacked through the breach. The enemy onager killed many of our Daggerlings, like many. Hassan managed to get outside the crowded clash, but the enemy chased him until he met a blind alley. Hassan took advantage of every opening and lessened their numbers attack after attack. Hassan deflected everything, dancing like a samurai waifu with hooked teeth. Another Asrai fell. Hassan continued to parry, then a swift thrust sent him to the ground. Rashid, the spy master, took command, joining the still continuing clash at the breach. His daggers pierced through many Assassins, but he too eventually got surrounded and brought down. The remaining assassins continued the assault with unending devotion. The clash descended to the main gates. A Daggerling proved his medicine skills by performing many long-distance lobotomies. Then he joined the fray to perform prostate exams with his dagger. The battle was over shortly after. The Daggerling was promoted to the rank of companion. His name was Hacker the Gallant, and he was an incredible future party leader. Hassan donated all of his prisoners, including Sultan Unkit, to Asgard's dungeon, gaining influence and further relations with the Empress herself. The insane amount of experience quickly leveled him up. His build could be considered complete, so he started putting points toward the tactics skill. After selling his immense loot, he returned to Medeni Castle to defend it from yet another siege. Then, the vote for the owner of Asgard showed up. Ragia supported Hassan yet again. Hassan supported another lord instead of himself, while making sure it wasn't enough to win the vote. Another Asrai town joined Nizarim's territory. Then, it was time to deal with the defense of Medeni Castle. An Asrai lord with only 70 troops had set up the siege. Hassan sent his soldiers, and victory was achieved in no time. Afterwards, another vote came to the council. Lords of the Southern Empire were determined to sign a peace treaty with Assarai. No matter how much Hassan disagreed with them, they had already set their minds. A peace treaty with Southern Empire and Assarai Sultanate had been signed. Hassan got to work quickly, recruiting as many assassins as he could to refill his army. Meanwhile, the armies of the Southern Empire were destroying the Western Empire without mercy in the north. Hassan continued the conquest in the south, besieging Kuyas, which was in the hands of the dirty Volandians. The sapping the wall operation failed, and we had no more saboteurs to send. We had to conquer the city the old-fashioned way, by building trebuchets and sending them to reserve until all 4 were ready. Both walls and all enemy siege engines were destroyed, and we started the assault. Now you might be asking, Dungalot, why can't you use ladders like a real man? Well, our assassins would be decimated, with way too many casualties. Even though we were in a strong position at this stage, our soldiers were still inferior compared to any troop in the game. So, sieging without destroying the walls is a big no for this campaign. Anyways, our assassins stormed the city, and it was ours in no time, but its loyalty was in a terrible state, only 22 and still dropping by 2 points daily, a high risk of rebellion thanks to the Empress's debasement of currency policy. Inflation was crippling the people of the desert, but no one was willing to abolish that cursed policy. Anyways, Ragia gifted this town to Hassan too. Then another vote emerged. Our lords were demanding peace with the Volandians. We would be paying 2k dinars daily daily for some reason, Hasan's pleas were ignored once again and another stupid peace treaty was signed. Anyways, we besieged the Western Empire castle near Kuyas, another breach, another clash, another castle filled with corpses, and another victory. Ragia gifted this castle to Hasan as well. After selling the loot and prisoners in Kuyas, Hasan disbanded the army so the party leaders could restock their troops on their own. Then Hasan marched further toward the Western Empire, hunting down enemy lords one by one with his increased speed. Then the newly taken Tbilisi castle got besieged by one of their armies, 500 strong. Hasan quickly recalled his party leaders to his army, but before they could even reach him, a peace proposal from the Western Empire arrived. Hasan accepted without hesitation. Using this time of peace, Hasan spoke with members of the Western Empire's army to gain their trust. The numerous fiefs added to our clan had increased our daily profits to a whopping 9k dinars. None of our lords were keen on declaring war on anyone, until Storgia declared war on us. Hasan joined one of the Southern Empire armies that marching toward them. First, they besieged Ombor and started the assault after building a ram and a siege tower. Arrows rained from the sky. Hasan killed many enemy archers on the walls with his daggers. Then he wielded the battering ram and destroyed the gate. The soldiers under his command refused to help him destroy the second gate, so he had to destroy it by swinging his tiny dagger over and over at it. When the second gate was finally down, our soldiers swarmed the town, slaughtering everything standing in their way. Meanwhile, Hasan dueled with an enemy earl, repeatedly penetrating the poor Storgian's body until he fell to the ground. After more slaughter, the enemy began rushing to their keep. We gave chase, but many of them managed to get inside. Hasan and a few soldiers entered it. The poor militia were butchered one by one. Omor was conquered. Afterwards, the army marched toward Ov Castle and besieged it. Enemy onagers caused many casualties. The defense was strong for a castle. Hasan did his best to lessen their numbers, but the onagers kept smashing through our forces. Still, the sacrifice of those soldiers made it possible for the battering ram to reach the gate. After destroying it, Hasan and the soldiers advanced to break through the second gate, but the enemy relentlessly dropped rocks from above. Hasan was knocked out shortly after the second gate was destroyed. The enemy did everything they could to push us back from the gates. The clash felt unending, but after countless corpses decorated the ground, the fighting finally ended and our soldiers swarmed the castle. The enemy retreated to the keep, only to get slaughtered again. Storgia was on the brink of war exhaustion. Hasan left the army and started traveling toward the town where his empress was resting. On the way, Storgia came pleading for peace, offering to pay us 2k dinars daily. We accepted. After clearing out some bandit scum from imperial lands and helping Dibana with her primal needs, Hasan finally reached Mizea. He rushed to the keep to hang out with his empress. She was very happy to see him. First, they went upstairs to play some tablut. With his masterful skills, Hasan dominated Ragia in a rough and brutal fashion. This turned Ragia on. Not many had the courage to humiliate her. They started flirting, talking about each other's personalities. Hasan stayed in town, returning each day to the keep to flirt with her some more. Eventually, Hasan confessed his feelings. Ragia rejected him, not because she didn't want him, but because her husband was around. Yes, our queen was married, and not to some noble imperial, but to a dirty half-wit Battanian named Colhern. Hasan quickly launched an assassination operation against the green barbarian. Afterward, he returned to the keep and smashed the empress. She enjoyed his company very much. A few days later, Kulhan was successfully assassinated. The empress became a widow once again. Hasan called his wife Dibana to his chambers. She was enthusiastic and wet, only to hear Hasan's desire to break up with her. She was heartbroken, speechless, but she had no choice but to obey. Right after, Hasan rushed to his empress and proposed to her. On the 14th day of autumn, 1091, Hasan and Ragia were married. A big brown nose and a charm that smells of spice. He had just earned Nizarim, an incredibly strong political position. A marriage that caused the ruler to join the clan of her vassal. A new ruler for the Southern Empire had to be elected, but at this point, every clan leader in the empire was already worshipping Hasan. All of them supported him to become the new emperor. Hasan supported another lord instead, just to increase his relations even further. On the same day as his marriage, Hasan was anointed as the new emperor of Calradia. The following days were spent hunting bandits until Clan Nizarim reached Clan Tier 5. Then Hasan started signing policies that empowered the ruler clan, more daily influence, bigger party size, and improved improve town management. After flexing his new authority, he began traveling from village to full his expanded party size with fresh recruits. During this time, two rebel factions emerged against his rule. One of them, led by the Vizartos clan, was dangerously strong, but not strong enough to start a civil war yet. Meanwhile, Hasan had returned to the desert, still focused on gathering soldiers. He checked in on his towns, every single one in fantastic shape. Alamut had hit 5k prosperity and was still gaining +5 daily. Absolute perfection. Once Hasan's party was full, he summoned every party in Clan Nizarim to form his personal army. Rebellions were erupting all over the southern empire, but Hasan marched straight to Husunful to handle its uprising. The town was breached. Our assassins stormed in and pushed the rebels toward the center, where they were brutally slaughtered. The assault ended in an effortless victory. Husunful was restored to the empire, and Hasan was chosen as its new owner. Meanwhile, the Vizartos rebel faction kept gaining strength in the shadows, but Hasan wasn't idle. He had just unlocked the talent magnet perk, raising his clan party limit once again. Now, Clan Nizarim could field 5 separate parties simultaneously. Without hesitation, Hasan gifted 200 elite troops to Hakkar the Gallant and restocked his own unit. When the preparations were complete, he stood at the head of a 1,000-strong army, composed entirely of his own clan. The time had come. It was time to declare the second war against the Aserai. Many of our lords backed the proposal. Only 300 influence was needed. The war was declared. First on the list was Sanala. Our saboteurs breached the wall, but I still felt the need to build trebuchets. 1,000 defenders were too scary without any siege engines. Once all of the enemy engines were destroyed, we launched the assault. After entering the town through the breach, pure chaos erupted. There was no room to maneuver. Everywhere was packed with soldiers and corpses. Hasan got surrounded in no time and was knocked out. The assassins continued their charge, but the enemy was taking down 10 or more of our men for every kill we got. We had to retreat and starve out the garrison. A duel of siege engines continued. 4 days later, while we were still waiting, Garrus declared war. 2 more days passed, and the garrison was finally starved out. We began the second assault. For some reason, the enemy infantry on the right side exited through the breach to join the left flank, but our formation had already secured the left breach. Seeing this, the enemy tried to return to the right breach, but our second formation was waiting there too. Completely exposed, they were sandwiched between our troops. Hasan began clearing the walls, then helped his assassins from the center. The last resistance was holed up in an archer tower, packed with militia, most holding garbage tier weapons and wearing even worse armor, but they had numbers. Hasan dismembered limb after limb with his tiny dagger. Eventually, they were wiped out. With the sacrifice of many assassins, another Aserai town was liberated. Afterward, Hasan caught an Aserai army and imprisoned 3 of their lords. As with all the Aserai towns before it, Sanala's ownership was granted to Hasan as well. The Aserai begged for peace, but there were no second chances at this time. Hasan marched on Ukba Castle. Its walls were tall, making our throwing daggers useless, but then the battering ram reached the gate. Once again, Hasan grabbed the giant hardwood and penetrated the gate with it, over and over again. A perfect date many men can only dream of. The clash that followed was brutal and drawn out. Hasan managed to break free from the crowd and knocked out one of the enemy lords, but was soon knocked out himself. The assassins finished the job and Ukba Castle fell. Its ownership was also granted to Hasan. Next on the list was Betrayal Castle. Another breached wall, another brutal clash, another pile of corpses, and another victory. Right when we were marching toward the last remaining fief of the Aserai, a civil war erupted in their ranks. Ain Belik, their final castle, had fallen into rebel hands. We couldn't declare war on them just yet. That civil war had saved the Sultanate's life, or at least prolonged it. Anyway, Hasan joined the front against the Western Empire. First, Garantur Castle fell, then our vassals conquered Lageta and granted to us. After that, Hasan disbanded the 2 nearby imperial armies and recalled all the now free lords to his own force. Almost 2,000 strong, we marched on the last town of the Western Empire, Ortizia. Its walls were destroyed, the garrison starved out, and the assault began. Hasan charged through the breach on horseback and hurled his daggers until a rock knocked his ass out. Regardless, our soldiers crushed the poor enemy militia and painted the imperial streets red. Afterward, Hasan kicked everyone outside his clan from the army and marched toward the final Western Empire stronghold, Oristokoris Castle, but it was way too strong and overcrowded for a mere castle, so Hasan had to recall the lords he just kicked out. We started the assault. Enemy onagers fired with brutal efficiency. Our siege towers were destroyed before they reached the walls. Our troops tried to gather around the battering ram, only for it to be blasted to pieces seconds later. With no way in, the army scattered and retreated. Hasan said, "Fuck this shit," with trebuchets and flattened the walls. After that, the castle fell in seconds. On the first day of winter 1092, the Western Empire was no more. That castle too was granted to Hasan. He returned to Ortizia to manage it. Ragia was appointed its governor. Then he traveled to Legata, which was on the brink of rebellion. Debana, still in our clan despite the divorce, was appointed as its governor. And it was time to deliver the final blow to the Sturgians. After taking Omor back from the rebels, Hasan once again disbanded the nearby armies and called every lord to his own. Right after that, the civil war in the Assarai Sultanate came to an end. A new kingdom had emerged, the Emirate of Miyajet. On the 14th day of winter 1092, the Assarai Sultanate was no more. Unkit, now just an independent clan, declared war on the Southern Empire, a desperate act of vengeance against Hasan. Anyway, 2000 men marched behind Hasan to bring an end to the Principality of Storgia. While besieging Revel, the lords of the Southern Empire requested to declare war on Miyajet. Hasan granted their wish. With the walls breached, the snowy streets of Revel were painted red with the blood of its people. The Southern Empire's army was very eager to throw away troops, dumping 500 men into Revel's garrison right after the battle. Hasan had to take 400 of them and donate them back to their original commanders, earning free influence in the process. Next target, Ustakol Castle, the last stronghold of Storgia. Another duel of siege engines, another two broken walls, another pile of corpses, another kingdom erased from history. After the battle, Hasan finally hit 275 medicine, unlocking the Minister of Health perk, granting every soldier in his party 1 extra HP for every point above 250, which means if we can get him to 330, the whole party was basically doubles in strength. While we were busy destroying the north, our soldiers in the south were laying siege to the only remaining fief of the Emirate of Miyajet, in Balı Castle. A few days later, Miyajet joined the graveyard of kingdoms. Only 4 kingdoms remained on the continent. After returning to Legata, Hasan dropped all his troops into the garrison, then stashed all his horses and food in the town's storage. Afterwards, he traveled to Ortizia and left Rashid in the tavern. From this point on, he will travel alone, silent, discreet. He proposed a declaration of war on Volandia. Every lord objected. To push it through, Hasan would have needed 1500 influence, but instead, he withdrew the proposal and spent 500 to declare a direct war himself. No armies, just blood. He bribed the guards at Sargot's gate and slipped inside, disguised as one of them. Without raising suspicion, he made his way to the keep. A noble woman questioned him at the entrance, but Hasan held firm. His disguise worked. She let him pass. Inside the keep, 2 nobles were chatting in a private room. Hasan slipped behind cover and drew his dagger. A quick flick, and one of the lords dropped. Another throw, 1 more noble down. Alarms sounded. Nobles and guards from downstairs rushed in panic. Hasan was faster. 1 more dagger for another lady, then a soldier, then another, and another noble. One by one, they all fell, until no one was left breathing inside the keep. Hasan walked out through the same gate as he had entered, unseen in the chaos. This was just the beginning. He planned to do the same in every Vlandian town, cutting down their lords one by one, weakening their kingdom from the shadows. Lords began to hunt him. They tried to track him, intercept him, capture him by any means necessary, but none were fast enough. Next was Gallant. Hasan entered undetected, disguised again, and headed straight to the keep. This time, it was a giant stone tower with no covers to hide behind, no room for stealth. Only 2 noble women were inside. He drew his dagger and planted it squarely in one of their faces. Immediately after, chaos broke loose. Every soldier in the town came after him, but Hasan danced between them like wind slipping through blades, dodging strikes, leaping through alleys. He escaped without a scratch. Then it was off to Prevent, but while Hasan wasn't paying attention, a Volandian lord caught him. Hasan tried to talk his way out, attempting to deceive the man into joining the Southern Empire, but the lord wasn't buying it. With no chance to escape or fight back, Hasan surrendered. Imprisoned, he made his first escape attempt that very night, but he was quickly spotted. He bolted, dodging attacks and outpacing the guards with ease. Their arrows couldn't slow him. He reached the magical red border. Freedom was right there, but he realized he couldn't escape while the guards were still on alert. He turned back, but the timer was up. Back to prison. This time the Volandian lord tossed him into Gallant's dungeon. A few days later, when the guards had let their guard down, Hasan made his move again. Inside his cell, crushed with a dagger in hand, he stabbed a seated guard. After disguising himself in the man's armor and taking the dungeon keys, he strolled toward the gate like he belonged there. Hasan was free again. Still, Varandian lords were hunting him. Moving carefully, he slipped past their patrols and entered Oak's Hall. Another guard disguise, another infiltration. Only one noble woman was inside the keep. Hasan, ever the provocator, gave her a quick flash of his giant crock. Infuriated, she attacked him on the spot. He had no choice but to put her down. Then came the guards, 3 of them. Hasan hurt his daggers with surgical precision, dropping them all. Then 3 more arrived, stronger this time. He took down 2, then engaged the final one in a brutal duel. When the dust settled, every single one of them was dead, and Hasan quietly walked out of the town. Next, he entered Rovelt and disguised himself once again. Through the giant training field, he entered the wooden keep. There were many nobles inside, most of them upstairs, with the ground floor filled with soldiers. Hasan entered the room with 2 nobles and 2 guards. He took cover behind a wardrobe, taking down one guard with a single dagger. The other guard died from another throw. Then Hasan started parrying the ladies. One died after Hasan dismembered her arm. The other fell to an overhead strike. Next, Hasan killed the lady against the railings. The guards on the ground floor remained unalerted.
It must have been the wind.
Hasan calmly made his way toward the gate, shaking his ass in front of the guards to mock their incompetence. No one was suspicious. Hasan left the town and traveled to Ostikan. Another disguise, another keep. A lady was resting on the throne. Hasan climbed upstairs and positioned himself above the lady. He threw a dagger at her face, but it missed. The infuriated lady charged at Hasan to fight him with her fists and cute dress. Hasan smashed the lady's skull with his dagger and ran toward the door. All the town guards chased him. Hasan forgot where the gate was, so they ran around the town for quite some time. When he got close to the beach, the guards gave up on chasing him. Afterwards, Hasan traveled to Bethanian lands to finally find some peace. But right as he stepped into their forests, they declared war too. With careful moves, Hasan returned to Legata. Yes, he had successfully assassinated many Varandian nobles, but most of them were ladies. Sending his assassins against rulers and clan leaders wasn't reliable, as the chances were too low due to lack of trust and connections. Hasan needed a better method than picking them off one by one or sieging day and night. A way built on treason and cunning, he began disbanding the armies assembled by his vassals. With 3 wars ongoing, the vassals kept spending their influence to form new armies. Right after Hasan dismissed the previous ones, their influence was draining, but many clans had absurd amounts, far more than even Clan Nizrim. Hasan started launching scandal operations against the clans with the highest influence. Their trust in him made them easy targets. Armies kept forming again and again, only for Hasan to disband them again and again. Our town Legata was besieged by a Bethanian army of 600. Meanwhile, 2 scandal operations were successful and the targets lost all their influence. Hasan initiated 2 more against other high-influence clans. Then he waited for the Bethanian army to begin their assault. When they did, Hasan joined the defense by sacrificing 50 troops. Hasan manned the ballista, only to miss over and over again, wasting precious ammo and time until he finally got to aim right. But it didn't matter, as the enemy started fleeing before even reaching the walls. Apparently our soldiers had shredded them with onagers while Hasan was still fumbling with the ballista. One of our assassins racked up 94 kills, meaning he had gained otherworldly skill bonuses. He had been trained in party leader skills, and oh boy, he was broken. With 300 in steward leadership, medicine, tactics, and all the other important skills above 250, Shumsan the Hammer needed a party to lead ASAP. Hasan gifted him 300 of his highest tier soldiers. Then they caught the fleeing Bethanian lords. Hasan continued to disband armies. With every drop in relations, the rebel faction against his crown grew stronger. Their support now spread the rest of the empire. 10k strength for the rebels and only 8k for the royalists. A civil war could start any day now. Hasan didn't care though and continued disbanding armies. The 2 scandal operations were concluded. One was successful, the other failed but covered. Hasan retried the failed one and also launched another operation against a different clan. While his routine of disbanding armies continued, he finally reached 275 in leadership, netting a massive bonus to his party size. But right after that, a civil war broke out. Only 2 clans still remained on the same side as Clan Nizrim. With 4 wars simultaneously tearing the empire apart, Hasan needed to act quickly. He tried to summon lords to his army, but only ladies were left. In a moment's notice, Legata was conquered by a Varandian army. Hasan couldn't deal with them now. He shifted his entire focus to the rebels and began the siege of Rote. After breaching the walls with saboteurs, we launched our assault. A massive clash of infantries unfolded while Hasan drew his daggers from horseback. After a while, he joined the fray himself. Another pure chaos, another pile of corpses, and Rote was ours. Then Hasan besieged the armories with the same tactics. He threw his daggers like an automatic machine gun, holding a narrow passage against countless militia. He killed many and piled up corpses. The rebels had lost another town. Next, he returned to Rote to defend it against yet another Vlandian army. An easy victory. Then he spotted a rebel army of 1,200 besieging Amitatis. He sacrificed 100 troops to join the defenders inside the town. Hasan wielded a ballista once again, this time with much better aim thanks to his earlier experience. When the enemy began attacking the gate, he crushed them with massive rocks. And for some reason, that was enough to make the entire army flee. Many rebels were imprisoned, and they took a massive hit to war exhaustion. The siege also earned Hasan an immense amount of engineering experience from all the ballista kills. He caught an escaping rebel lord, then another rebel army began besieging one of our castles. Another easy victory. Afterwards, Hasan made peace with the Battanians, then he made peace with the Valandians too. Shortly after, his royalist clans proposed peace with the Crusades, and Hasan accepted. Right afterward, the Crusades sent an assassination contract for Hasan, but he was too busy to deal with that. The rebels were our one and only problem now. Hasan besieged Zionica. Another brutal and chaotic clash, another giant pile of corpses, and another victory for the royalists. The rebels were on the brink of war exhaustion, with only 3 more points left. Hasan caught a small rebel army trying to besiege a town. An effortless victory. They finally hit the war exhaustion cap, but before they could accept peace, the Crusades sent another assassination contract. Hasan rejected it again. I guess no means something different in the east. Anyway, the rebellion was crushed, and all the clans and land returned to the Southern Empire. None of them had enough influence left to oppose Hasan's kingdom decisions. Hasan relaxed on his throne, fully aware of the evil he was about to commit. It caused a funny sensation between his ass cheeks. He expelled the rebellious veteranist clan by spending 650 influence to pass the vote. Then another, and then another. None could stop him. His influence reserves were nowhere near depletion. When he was done, only a clan named Domesticaros remained as his vassal. Hasan took ownership of all the towns belonging to the expelled lords, a long and grindy process. During that time, Rote rebelled again, so Hasan had to deal with them as well. After crushing the Rote rebels, he started stripping the last clan of their fiefs too, leaving poor Oros with only one, Odrisa castle. Then Hasan abdicated the throne to Oros. The idiot was thrilled to become emperor. Hasan was going to make sure that smile turned into tears. Hasan left the kingdom while holding all of his fiefs. This triggered a declaration of war from the Southern Empire, which was now reduced to just one castle. Hasan sapped the walls and began the siege. The defenders were tough and the breach was narrow, but once we pushed them into the center, the battle turned into a slaughter. On the 14th day of winter 1093, the Southern Empire was no more. Afterward, Hasan returned to the desert to refill his army and train them using bandits. On the last day of winter, Mestikaros, the final clan of the Southern Empire, joined Batania as a vassal. Our betrayal had made Ragia sad, but nothing mattered more to her than her lover now, Hasan, the big brown cock. She continued to serve him loyally as the governor of Ortizia, while we were busy recruiting Phycian rebels with no kingdom and no loyalty boosting policies. Many of our towns were now at risk of rebellion. Hasan sent a messenger to Monchuk, but before the messenger even reached him, Rotea rebelled too. Anyway, Hasan made the sacred vow, and on the 9th day of spring 1094, Clan Nizarim officially joined the Crusades. All of Hasan's fiefs still belonged to him, only now they were under free protection from the Crusade Khanate. The first thing Hasan did as a vassal was propose new policies for party size, daily influence and town loyalty. All were passed without issue. He continued building up his massive army, but not long after joining, both the Valandians and the Battanians declared war on the Crusades. As Hasan marched west, a marriage proposal arrived. A young Crusade boy was asking to marry Hasan's ex-wife, Tibana. Hasan accepted. He needed to quickly strengthen his relations with his new allies. During a stop at Kuyaz, Hasan spotted a Valandian army of 1,300 marching in to besiege the town. He waited just outside, letting them set up their camp. When they began the assault, Hasan intercepted with his 1,000 1,500 strong Clanoni army. He noticed a perfect grinder spot on the battlefield, a narrow passage between two massive rocks, with a beach behind it. Hasan placed the Shadowlings at the front to block the narrow path with a shield wall. Behind them were the Daggerlings, able to safely throw their daggers until they run dry. At the back, the mounted assassins stood on their horses, also ready to rain death from above. The Varangian knights charged headfirst into the Shadowlings' wall. They got stuck, and that's when the daggers started pouring down like cursed hail. Even with their heavy armor, the knights dropped one by one. Their steel was soon decorated with sticking blades, and after minutes of grinding, the knights were no more. Then came the Varangian crossbowmen. They stayed back, trying to shoot from higher ground without getting too close. We had to abandon our perfect position to deal with them. The Shadowlings climbed through the passage and met them head-on. While the Shadowlings and Daggerlings fought the enemy infantry and crossbowmen, the mounted assassins stood with their cavalry on the beach. Hasan focused on picking off the high-tier ranged enemies, thinning them out with precision. Eventually, the enemy broke formation and repositioned, but it didn't help. Our mounted assassins once again tore through their cavalry, and our foot troops charged the remaining infantry. Their lines crumbled in no time. The final wave arrived. Low-tier peasants with wooden shields. They didn't last long. After clearing them out, the battle was over, with only 60 of our troops laying dead. Then Hasan began reclaiming the lands of Valandia. He supported various lords for ownership of the new fiefs, just enough to look fair, while never giving anyone enough influence to sway the decision. Smaller Valandian and Battanian armies were caught and crushed one by one. He started besieging towns that had been stolen from him during the rebellion. With no militia or strong garrisons left, they were free real estate. Many Valandian and Battanian lords were captured. Hasan began executing them one by one, earning the deceitful trait that only boosted his standing with the Khuzait lords, every one of them enemies of the man Hasan had just wiped from the map. A back-and-forth war raged against Valandia. For every fief Hasan captured, the Valandians snatched one back. Still, he kept grinding them down, one Valandian army after another. Any lords captured by other Khuzaites were bought back by Hasan, only to be executed immediately. Valandian towns began to fall. Hasan, now swimming in gold, started donating large sums to other Khuzait clans to further boost his relations. More armies fell, both Valandians and Battanians begged for peace. Hasan rejected every offer. Castle after castle, army after army, execution after execution, Hasan carved his way toward Marinat, the capital of Battania. Inside were 800 defenders. The assassins stormed the breach. Thick infantry formations clashed in a suffocating brawl. Many assassins fell, corpses piled high, but the defenders were eventually overwhelmed. The walls were cleared soon after. Marinat was ours. More lords were executed. Many clans from both Battania and Valandia were wiped out. More peace proposals followed, all of them denied. More armies, more executions. Then Penkenok fell. But all this warmongering had taken its toll. The Nizarim army was growing weaker. Hasan finally accepted peace with Battania and turned his full attention to the Valandians. While besieging yet another castle, a notification popped up. The imperial clan Hasan had left the crown to, Mestikaros, was trying to blackmail him. Poor Oros, still chasing some sad little revenge fantasy. More Valandian castles and towns fell. More lords were executed. Then Hasan found their king, Erdrant, leading a siege on Sargot. His head was next on the chopping block. Another castle, another army gone. After conquering Charas and Gallant, Hasan returned to Kuyaz. Dozens of Valandian nobles were rotting in its dungeon. Hasan executed them all in one go. Then came the dagger in the back. The Khuzait lords demanded peace with Valandia. The terms? Our kingdom would pay 1,200 dinars daily. A brain-dead decision, but with Manchuk's support, it passed. Hasan had no choice but to sign that garbage treaty. He knew deep down that these horse diddlers didn't deserve the unmatched service of Clan Nizarim. After rifling his army and selling off the mountain of loot in his inventory, Hasan began plotting an assassination operation against Manchuk. Success rate 50%. He rolled the dice. Meanwhile, a scandal operation was launched to cripple the remaining clan's influence. Hasan recruited even more troops to train as agents. A few days later, the scandal operation succeeded. Manchuk's assassination still in progress. More scandals followed. Meanwhile, Battanian and Valandian clans were also sending their agents against us. 2 days later, Manchuk's assassination failed, but it was covered up. We tried again. A week later, the Khuzait Council assembled to elect a new ruler. Just like with the Southern Empire, everyone anonymously supported Hasan. On the 19th day of spring 1095, Hasan was crowned Khan of Khuzait. He immediately launched 2 more scandal operations against his vassals. Then he paid a visit to his now wife, ex-empress Ragea. They played a game of Tablut. First, he smashed her on the board. Then he smashed her in the bed. Soon after, the Battanians attempted a scandal operation against our clan, but they failed. Unfortunately, one of our our own scandal attempts also failed, and worse, it was discovered. Our criminal rating jumped by 50, cutting down our daily influence. Hassan acted fast. He proposed to expel the Crusade clan that had uncovered his operation. All the other lords disagreed, but by spending 1,700 influence, he forced the vote through. The poor bastards were gone. Then came more scandals. Voting began for ownership of the expelled clan's towns. The lords poured their influence into the votes, and Hassan let them have it. One scandal failed again, but the other succeeded. Time to expel. 1,000 influence for the first clan, 800 for the second, 600 for the third, 400 for the fourth, 300 for the fifth, and just 20 for the sixth. The rest had no influence left. All of them were expelled, including the one Dibana had married into. Only one clan remained untouched, Colted. Hassan then claimed ownership of the now lordless fiefs. He seized the remaining fiefs of the Colted clan, the last standing. Then with one final power move, Hassan abdicated the throne to Kanushan, Colted's clan leader. A moment later, he left the Crusade kingdom while holding on to every single one of his fiefs. With just a few clicks, the mighty Crusade Khanate vanished from the continent. Right afterwards, Hassan sent a messenger to Kaladok. In its weakened state, Batanya accepted the service of Clan Nizarim without hesitation. But then came a problem. Hassan's newly seized Crusade fiefs started appearing in ownership votes. He had forgotten to claim them before leaving the Khanate. This made Hassan very angry. Batanya was already at war with the Valandians, so Hassan began ravaging their lands once more. Then Galant rebelled. Hassan attempted to enact loyalty policies, but the idiot green barbarians rejected his proposals. More of Nizarim's fiefs were handed out to Batanyan lords. Even our former Emperor Oros was showing up in the votes. Then the Valandians attempted a kidnapping operation against Hassan. It failed. Next, Jacular rebelled. Hassan pressed on, capturing more Valandian castles. Then Sargot rebelled. All of the Valandians' town we had taken now lay in the hands of rebels. Still, Hassan continued the conquest. We launched an assault on Prevent. Countless assassins died to onagers. Another brutal grind through a narrow breach. Another wall drenched in blood. Another tavern buried under piles of corpses. Another victory. Several Crusade clans had joined the Valandians by then. Hassan spared their lives and pressed on. Oxhall fell soon after. Then another peace proposal arrived. This time we couldn't reject it. Our kingdom was exhausted too. Once the treaty was signed, Hassan marched to crush the rebel towns. Afterwards, he tried to assassinate the remaining Valandian lords, but the chances were -20 due to the sheer amount of grudge they held from all the previous executions. So Hassan turned his sights on his new king, Kaladok, but this time the success chance was -108, an all-time low, thanks to the mountain of hate it built up. Even scandal operations were impossible now. Hassan spent the following days training his army, then he joined an abdication rebel faction. With Clan Nizarim on their side, the balance of power shifted massively in their favor. The very next day, civil war erupted. Hassan bent the knee to the rebel leader and marched toward Dunglanis. Meanwhile, Murnat rebelled. Dunglanis fell, and we pushed on to Seonon. Then Prevent rebelled too. We laid siege to Seonon, another brutal grind through a narrow breach between stone walls. The mud ran thick with Batanyan corpses. Once the walls were cleared, Seonon was ours. Next, we intercepted a Batanyan army attempting to besiege one of our castles. With their defeat, the civil war was over. A new high king had to be elected. As usual, everyone supported Hassan. They may not have liked him, but they knew he was by far the strongest. Still, by now, they should have known better than to trust him with a crown. Hassan had 10,000 influence. He proposed expelling Kaladok's clan. Every lord opposed it, but with 1,500 influence, Hassan expelled the bastard anyway. Then, one by one, he expelled the rest of the clans until only one remained, Mestikaros. Poor Oros once again was the lone survivor. Hassan took all his lands, then handed Oros yet another crown. After that, Hassan left the kingdom with all of his holdings. On the 9th day of spring 1096, the high kingdom of Bateria was destroyed from within. Only one kingdom remained, Landia. Hassan traveled toward Ortizia, but with every step, more of our towns rebelled. Inside Ortizia, he reunited with his wife and governor, Ragea. First, he asked how the town was doing. Everything was fine. Then together, they proclaimed a new kingdom, the Hashashins. All clan members assembled to plan the future of Calradia. Then, Hassan begged Ragea. The next day, the Valandians declared war, first on the list, enacting loyalty policies. Then came daily influence and party size boost. With 2,000 men in his army, Hassan began his march. The Valandians had already launched assaults. Hassan wiped out an army of 700. After executing every last lord, he began seizing their lands. Then he captured their new king and executed him too, wiping out the Daytir clan. More Valandian fortresses fell. They started begging for peace, but Hassan was only getting started. Another army destroyed, 2 more clans eliminated, more castles, towns and armies collapsed. More clans wiped off the map, but just as Hassan was about to deliver the final blow, a civil war erupted in Valandia. Due to some mysterious Calradian law, Hassan couldn't declare war on the rebels, so he made peace with the royalists, letting them finish their cute little civil war, before coming back to finish off the winner. To make use of the downtime, Hassan traveled to rebel towns, adding them back to his kingdom one by one, from west to east to north. He reclaimed every last settlement. A year passed, and the Valandian civil war still hadn't ended. Hassan kept waiting, earning half a million dinars daily just by owning 90% of the continent's towns. Eventually, he had enough. He declared war on Valandia, and with the conquest of Rote, the royalists were no more. Next up, the rebels. They declared war on us, saving us the trouble. Their armies fell, their heads rolled. Then we pushed north to their final strongholds. In desperation, they poisoned our food stocks. Rebel fell anyway. Then we besieged Prevent. 1,400 defenders stood inside. We built trebuchets, smashed the walls, and starved out the garrison. With the fall of Prevent, the Valandian rebels were gone. No more kingdoms to oppose us, no more clans to disagree with us. Everything was under the unquestionable rule of Hashashins. Hassan returned to Ortizia, took his wife into his party, and traveled to Alamut, now grown rich and prosperous over the years. There they smashed day and night and lived happily ever after. And you too can smash the like and subscribe button to make me live happily ever after. See you in the next one, guys.